PMCO Global Finals is the biggest, the most hottest tournament in the second half of the year for one of the most popular mobile games on the planet. 16 teams have qualified from all corners of the globe and gathered in Malaysia to fight it out for a massive prize pool and the ultimate honor of winning the PUBG Mobile Club Open Championship. This tournament will go on for 3 days and will have multiple games every day. And on the first day, we are going to have 4 maps which will be played out. And the game 1 started on the most chaotic map of them all, Sandhawk. The plane took a southern path, starting from ruins to Lakwai, and surprisingly nobody contested boot camp, and Bigetron got that entire area for themselves, meaning they had the best loot and it will help them out a lot later in the game. SouL had a pretty rough time, as they lost Mortal very early on in the game, and then the rest of the team got picked off one by one at the hands of Team EGC from Korea. EGC actually had a great time in the first game. They were knocked out at the 4th position, and 9 kills, that's the highest kills out of all the teams that were participating in the tournament. Entity Gaming, by the time the 4th circle started, they had the advantage in terms of positioning, which did allow them to catch a few players from multiple teams off guard, but as later the circle shrank, they ran into top Esports and lost.
As that's, I believe, yet another team getting taken down. It's Entity out in 9th. And
we have to say that top Esports, when they were going in the last circle in the last 3 final stages of the game, top Esports had the high ground advantage, but All Rejection Gaming had the numbers advantage with 3 players alive.
Straight their way. Top Esports, by the way, they've managed to get 7 kills, returning champs. Seems like they're going to have the squad they need. Uneven, finds it, gets 1 knock, but gets taken down in the process.
Then he stayed there and getting some kills and securing points for the team. Eventually, top Esports fought All Rejection Gaming, and that was the chance that Luxy capitalized on. He hit some crazy shots and clutched out the game for his team. A great way for Bigetron to start the day with an amazing clutch, and they're going to be feeling really confident going into the next game.
The Undertaker himself, Luxy, positions himself so well. His twin's happy with him too, but this was an insane win for BTR.
Game number 2 on Miramar was an absolute bloodbath. The plane went from El Pozo to Los Leones diagonally, and once again SouL had a horrible start as Mortal got eliminated just minutes after landing in Los Leones. Unicorn Gaming were giving them such a hard time, but luckily SouL managed to survive with 3 players. As the circle shrinked, Mega Esports challenged top Esports at the western coast, and Mega intercepted them while they were in the middle of the rotation. Top Esports did try to fight back by spreading out and taking high ground advantage, but on the basis of sheer firepower, Mega Esports showed them who's the boss and eliminated the defending champions with only 1 casualty. Somehow SouL managed to escape from Los Leones with the rest of their players and ended up in a compound where they were fighting Orange Esports. Unicorn Gaming rushed into the compound and challenged them both. Viper did an amazing job holding the house and getting almost 3 knockdowns, but as he tries to finish them and as he tried to jump out of the window to flank, Bigetron was able to third party him, and that was the end of the road for Team SouL. But even though SouL was underperforming, luckily another Indian team, Entity Gaming, were on fire today, and they showed us what it means to be the super aggressive teams. Illuminate and Entity were then locked in a battle for the chicken dinner, but then it doesn't matter because even though Entity were in a tough 2 versus 4 fight, and even though Illuminate wins the chicken dinner, Entity can hold their heads up high because they have the highest kills in the game. Entity were the only team who had kills in the double digits. Entity had 10 kills. That's the highest kills in the entire game.
And get the chicken dinner.
Jonathan smiling towards the end there. He knew he's done well, and he knows that Illuminate deserved that win. Like bats from above, they fly down. What an insane game to finish with.
The plane went north to south and the circle was balanced too. Usually we see that in Vikendi the circle is on the water or something, but this time it was on the land and it was rather balanced. Mortal took first blood onto a player from Mega Conquerors as he blew up his car. Now Team SouL, they dropped in Villa and they stayed there throughout the game because the circle favored them, and that's why that was one of the advantages why SouL won. RRQ was the team that was getting kills left, right and center, and their first 2 victims were Aman and Ghatak from Entity. Entity went for a 2-2 split, which did not work for them. Aman and Ghatak first went down to the players from RRQ, and then Illuminate the Murder decimated the rest of the Entity players as well. Orange Esports locked horns with Kurt's squad, and Orange Esports used some great preemptive nades which allowed them to kill 3 people from Kurt's squad, leaving the last player to run away. As the circle closed in on Villa, Team SouL obviously had the advantage going into that, but RRQ and EGC were the only teams out in the open, and like I mentioned before, RRQ was getting kills left, right and center. This time, since RRQ and EGC were the only teams out in the open, RRQ decimated EGC, getting themselves some much more points. The rest of the teams, they tried to get into Villa and secure some safe ground. Unique Esports somehow managed to get across the eastern wall, and they killed entirety of Team Illuminate the Murder at the eastern wall. But even if they got into Villa, they were never able to get into the main house because SouL was holding it like a fortress. And as they tried to do that, when the circle started shrinking, Clutchcott surprised them by jumping out of the window, and Clutchcott got a triple kill, which was amazing.
And so is this from Clutchcott as he wipes them out! Just takes down 3! Team Queso going...
Later on, in a rather anticlimactic heal-off battle, Mortal stayed behind in the blue zone and he was consuming first aid kits again and again. The last 2 players were down to a heal-off battle, and it was rather anticlimactic, but still, even though SouL wins by a rather unorthodox method, a chicken dinner is a chicken dinner, and hence SouL were able to get back into the tables. The final game of the day on Erangel showed us exactly why sometimes PUBG play zones can be absolutely brutal. The plane path banked heavily to the east, with the plane going from Lipovka to military base, but the circle went towards the west, and that made all the teams go in for really awkward rotations. The brutality of the play zone was kind of offset by the comedy start we saw, as Top Esports managed to run over Penguin from Team EGC, but then they could not finish him off and they had to drive around 4 times in order to finally finish him off. That was something funny to watch, but then the first intense battle of the game took place in Yasnaya, where Entity Gaming clashed with Orange Esports. And even though Entity Gaming lost Aman right at the very start of the game, they kind of wiped out Orange Esports. Amazing performance from Neo as he took a double kill with the UMP, and then he jumped out of the window in order to flank Orange Esports from behind and then took one more. Entity Gaming completely decimated Orange Esports and Neo picked up a triple kill, which is really impressive. Thanks to that brilliant play, Entity had a lot of points before the first circle even shut down. The circle then continued moving south towards Georgepol and Gatka, and Cloud9 was one of the first teams to reach inside that circle. They tried to take Everest, they tried to take the big mountain, but then they got scared to fight Unique, who was already sitting on top of Everest, and hence they fell back, and then they went ahead to clash with Top Esports. Now, I think Cloud9 got a little unlucky over there. One of the players made a mistake of pushing the compound of Top Esports alone, and he died. Then another player from Cloud9 got picked off and got third-partied by Unique Esports, and now that C9 were 2 players down, Top Esports took it as a signal to just rush in and finish off Team Cloud9. Illuminate also rushed the compound of Kurd Squad from Middle East, and Illuminate destroyed them. But then as the final few circles came in, all the compounds on all the teams, they were just forced out into the open. There was no single compound remaining in the final circle. Every team had to either use trees or rocks and ridges for cover. Some teams even had to go ahead and barricade cars together so that they can manufacture some cover, because there was literally no place left to hide. SouL had some terrible luck as they got double teamed. They were getting attacked from Unique Esports, who were above them, and then Queso was also hitting them from the side. So SouL was kind of, stuck in between 2 teams, and then they just got eliminated because of bad luck. But even though Queso revealed their position by killing SouL, Queso managed to hold their grounds and kept all their players alive until the very end. I was amazed by the way Bigetron had some rotations, which saved them. And even though Bigetron were in a lot of trouble and they were almost eliminated, that rotation saved them, and that allowed them to keep themselves alive till the 3rd place, where they were able to get a lot of more placement points. In the way, the final battle took place between Entity and Queso, and even though Entity survived that initial fight from Yasnaya in the beginning, Entity made some really smart rotations, and they avoided all sorts of risk. They were not spotted by anyone, they got into the circle safely, and they also managed to take a few kills along the way. So Entity played really smartly and the rotations were great. But then in the end, the final 2 teams were Queso and Entity, and once again, Entity found themselves in a 2v4 situation. Queso wins the chicken dinner, but even though Entity came second, they had the highest kills in the game, and this time it was 12 kills. So that marked the end of day 1. Southeast Asian teams ruled the circuit. Bigetron leads the charge on day 1. and they had almost always been finishing in the top 5, and they have a chicken dinner as well, hence Bigetron lead day 1. But Entity Gaming, oh my god, I am so impressed. Out of the 4 games played today, Entity finished second in 2 of the games, and in both of those games, Entity had the highest kills. So they are leading the charge for India right now. Because of all those kills, Entity is on the 2nd spot overall, and this consistency is going to help them go a long way in the tournament. So I'm really proud of Entity's performance today. SouL had a chicken dinner, but they did not have enough kills and they got eliminated quite early in the first few games, so they were a little inconsistent, and hence SouL is not in the top 8 at the end of day 1. But we can cut them some slack. They got a little unlucky in the last game, and hopefully they can bounce back on day 2. So Entity, as far as Indian teams are concerned, Entity is doing really well. SouL has a chicken dinner, but they're not there yet, so maybe they can bounce back on day 2. Either way, that was it from our side today. Thank you so much for watching. So even if you didn't get to watch the entire live stream of PMCO, you can watch the recaps on our channel. So subscribe for more quality PUBG Mobile content and PMCO recaps. Like the video if you actually enjoyed it. Don't forget to support your favorite teams and check out our channel once again tomorrow. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.